80% of the folks that didn't receive funding are in danger of closing permanently. And when they close, they take those jobs. So if we look at this industry started with 500,000 restaurants and it employed 11 million people. We've already lost 100,000. Now we're on the verge of losing another 100,000. So we're cutting this industry in half over the time of the pandemic, which means we're permanently losing 5 million jobs.
Hello everyone, and welcome to another episode of ChefWorks Perspectives, where we interview top chefs from around the world, industry titans, and agents of change in the hospitality field. Today, it is my pleasure to be joined by Erika Polmar, the Executive Director of the Independent Restaurant Coalition. Erika, thank you for being here with us today.
Hi, Aaron. Thanks so much for having us today. It's great to be with you.
Erika, I just want to jump right in. What is the Independent Restaurant Coalition?
The Independent Restaurant Coalition was formed on March 18th of 2020 when about almost 24 chefs and restaurant owners from across the country came together, realizing that the pandemic was going to be absolutely devastating for the industry and that they didn't feel like they had adequate representation in the halls where policies were being made. If you time travel back to March 18th, 2020, that was when things like the PPP program were starting to be developed, and programs like that didn't take into consideration the unique needs of restaurants. And so this group gathered. We started with 18 of us on a conference call. We quickly went to 2-a-day Zoom calls and rapidly grew our coalition to over 100,000.
How did the Restaurant Revitalization Fund come to be in the first place?
Yes, so the Independent Restaurant Coalition advocated for something called the Restaurants Act. It was introduced in 2020 by Congressman Blumenauer and Fitzpatrick in the House and Sinema and Wicker in the Senate. And unfortunately, those bills were never passed. However, in 2021, the principles of those bills, sort of the outline and the structure of that program, was included in the American Rescue Plan. And so the Restaurant Revitalization Fund was created in March of 2021.
And how much funding was involved in that first round of funding from Congress?
$28.6 billion was allocated, and I never thought that I would say $28.6 billion wasn't enough. I mean, the idea of $1 billion is just mind-boggling, but the industry lost over $120 billion in 2020, and that was the amount of money that we requested in the original bills. And so when the American Rescue Plan was introduced, we heard Senator Schumer say, we know this isn't enough, this is a down payment. So the $28.6 billion, and I may be getting a little ahead of myself here, but I'm just going to give you the whole kit and caboodle. The $28.6 billion allowed the Small Business Administration to launch the Restaurant Revitalization Fund. They opened the program for applications on May 3rd of 2021, and 300,000 businesses applied. These are smaller businesses. They had to have fewer than 20 locations. There were set-asides for businesses that had revenue of under $1.5 million a year or even under $50,000 a year. But 300,000 applications equaled $76 billion. So 2/3 of the people that applied for the Restaurant Revitalization Fund still have not received assistance.
Now, to put some numbers on what you were just talking about, that only a select few people actually got the first round of funding. I think on your guys' website it says that 178,000 restaurants did not receive funding the first go around. Is that correct?
Yes, that number is an approximate based on SBA data, but yes, somewhere between 177 and 200,000 applicants haven't received assistance.
We're going to talk a lot about how viewers can get involved, but at this point, maybe we just kind of go there now. How do people, get involved with the IRC?
Call Congress. I never thought I would have this number memorized, but 202-224-3121, which is 202-224-3121, will get you to the main switchboard in Capitol Hill. Making a call every day to your senators and representatives and saying, I believe in restaurants and that they need support. I want my favorite local bar or restaurant to remain in business. Maybe you're a supplier, and that's a valued customer to you. Sharing your own story and your own experience about why restaurants are important to your community is really critical to amplify the fight that we've all been in now for 700 days.
You know, Erika, some other numbers from your guys' website that are kind of scary are 24% of the restaurants who didn't receive funding are actually facing eviction notices. And an even dire number on that is 42% are staring at bankruptcy. Why are we not hearing more about this in the news cycle daily?
You know, that's a really good question. And I'll add the scariest stat of all. 80% of the folks that didn't receive funding are in danger of closing permanently. And when they close, they take those jobs. So if we look at this industry started with 500,000 restaurants and it employed 11 million people. We've already lost 100,000. Now we're on the verge of losing another 100,000. So we're cutting this industry in half over the time of the pandemic, which means we're permanently losing 5 million jobs. And that's just not okay. You know, we have seen a fair bit of news coverage, and I'm very grateful for it. And, you know, our team works really hard to make sure that we stay in the headlines. I think there are a lot of things that are challenging everybody in this pandemic, and it's really hard to stay top of mind. And more so, it probably looks like your neighborhood restaurants are busy. If they're open, right? So many of them still haven't been able to take the boards off their windows and get back to business, especially the smaller restaurants where you can't do spacing, or restaurants where, you know, paying your rent and just keeping your business open is a significant expense. And with consumer confidence down and the number of folks dining out and spending less being down, it's hard to make your numbers. So sometimes staying in hibernation is the only way a business can stay afloat. So there's lots of confusion about what you're seeing on the street and what's actually happening behind closed doors. Even if those doors are open and the restaurant is bustling, you know, we're in the hospitality industry. We never let you see us sweat, right? We could be having the worst day ever, but we have perfected the art of not having our guests experience that. So we're not going to come to the table and say, oh my gosh, did you know I have $2 million in debt right now? You know, you're not going to hear that. But that's the truth of the matter. We have restaurants that have accumulated 22 months of debt. They have unforgiving landlords who, you know, aren't making adjustments in their leases despite all of the closures. Supply costs have dramatically increased. I spoke to a restaurateur the other day who said, yeah, to get the fryer up and running is costing me $150 now. You know, pre-pandemic, it was a third of that. So these are all of the challenges facing us. And, you know, we're grateful for people like you who are taking the time to dig into this issue and really.
I have some really bad news for our viewers. We actually lost Erika at this point in the interview. We conducted the entire interview, but technology got the best of us when it came to the processing of the video. And it couldn't have happened at a worse time. This was by far the most informative and important interview we have done here at Perspectives, because of the impact that it has on our industry and the community that we serve. I will give you a brief synopsis of the topics that we covered and will encourage you to take action by heading to saverestaurants.com immediately after finishing this episode. With so many restaurants facing so many challenges, the impacts of their struggles reach far beyond their walls. If they do not receive the help that they so desperately need, people in the supply chain will be affected, and the potential for job losses are far greater than anyone can imagine. Food production, meat suppliers, truckers, rental companies, etc. The list goes on and on. At the same time that all this is happening, 87% of restaurants raised wages during the pandemic, trying to give those that stayed in culinary a better shot at living the life they so deserve to live. The next steps are very obvious to this problem. We need to get the RFF refunded. And Erika and her dedicated team are fighting daily to make that happen. But they need your help. Get on their site, again, saverestaurants.com, and sign the petition. Raise awareness with your friends and colleagues and have them sign the petition as well. Take advantage of the tools that the IRC has put together and personally call or email your local representatives in Congress and push them to make this a priority. Lastly, in a portion that we couldn't share with you due to our technical difficulties, Erika so eloquently stated that just because you own or work for an independent restaurant, it doesn't mean you are alone. Your struggles are real and are being felt all over our industry by people just like you. And they too are looking for help and understanding from their fellow restaurateurs. And the Independent Restaurant Coalition is standing by you as well. Again, get to their website and get involved, and let's help others regain their footing together. saverestaurants.com. I would like to thank Erika and all those who are fighting the fight, and thank you for taking the time and watching this episode of Perspectives. If you like what we are doing here at Perspectives, leave a comment below. Be sure to give us a like here and there, and subscribe. Until next time, I'm Aaron Brown, and this is Perspectives. I'll take that. Good.